This is, I don't know if this is unprecedented, but I've never heard anything like this. And it was not that long ago where the idea of being critical of U.S. foreign policy when you were a government official visiting another country was considered near active treason. There is really some question here. I don't know if there's some question, but it's close enough that people are starting to talk about the Logan Act, and I'll get to that in a moment. Apparently, 47 Republican senators signed on to a letter by Senator Tom Cotton. I'm not clear who the Republican senators who didn't do it were, but they include such luminaries as Orrin Hatch and John McCain and Lindsey Graham and Rand Paul and Ted Cruz and Kelly Ayotte, that moderate up in New Hampshire. Ron Johnson, I don't know who didn't sign it, to be honest with you. And the letter is an open letter to the leaders of the Islamic Republic of Iran. Now, you understand that negotiations have been ongoing with Iran. We don't know exactly where they are on this, but the press reports have said Iran would be under a very strict proliferation or a development regime, inspections regime. And they would never get, over those 10 years, closer than at least a year away from being able to create enough or enrich enough uranium to make one nuclear weapon. So these Republicans in the Senate, aside from Lisa Murkowski, Jeff Flake of Arizona, Dan Coates of Indiana, Susan Collins of Maine, and Tad Cochran of Mississippi, Corker and Lamar Alexander apparently also did not sign. It's come to our attention while observing your nuclear negotiations with our government. I mean, what a weird sort
Greetings,
of juvenile.
Ayatollah. We've been checking out the scene.
We've been noticing that during the course of your negotiations with the president,
I think we haven't seen it.
You seem not to understand, and this is fully understand our constitutional system.
Unlike our complex and multifaceted understanding of your Islamic Republic system, which we understand in great detail.
We're trying to bring to your attention two features of our Constitution: the power to make binding international agreements and the different character of federal offices, which you should seriously consider as negotiations progress. In the case of a treaty, the Senate must ratify it by a 2/3 vote. While the president negotiates international agreements, Congress plays the significant role in ratifying. A so-called congressional executive agreement requires a majority or a vote. Anything not approved by Congress is a mere executive agreement. Well, there's actually been a lot of these mere executive agreements. Second, the offices of our Constitution have two different characteristics. For example, the president may serve only 2 4-year terms, whereas senators may serve an unlimited number of 6-year terms. So, and they do the math. President Obama will be out by 2017. Many of us will be around for years. What these two constitutional provisions mean is that we will consider any agreement regarding your nuclear weapons program that is not approved by the Congress as nothing more than an executive agreement between President Obama and the Ayatollah Khomeini. The next president could revoke such an executive agreement with the stroke of a pen, and a future Congress could modify the terms of agreement at any time. We hope this letter enriches your knowledge of our constitutional system and promotes mutual understanding and clarity as nuclear negotiations progress. Well, first off, there's some real questions as whether or not this rises to the level of a Logan Act violation. The Logan Act was first written in 1799, and it was a law that forbid citizens who are unauthorized to negotiate with foreign governments, forbids them from negotiating with foreign governments. It's been since updated multiple times. The most recent, I think, was in the mid-90s. I don't know if this is a violation of the Logan Act, and I am absolutely 100% sure that it will never be tested. But the attempt here for the Republicans is to signal to them that you can't trust the United States if the president signs an agreement with you. Now, one wonders if they're going to contact these Republicans, the Israelis and the French and the Brits and every other government we have these type of executive agreements with, to tell them you cannot trust these agreements. But beyond that, Jack Goldsmith, one of the premier experts in constitutional law, writes, and I think he's actually a Republican. I'm not quite sure if he's how partisan he is, but he writes, its premise is that Iran's leaders may not fully understand our constitutional system, and in particular may not understand the nature of the, quote, power to make binding international agreements. It appears from the letter that the senators do not understand our constitutional system or the power to make binding agreements. The letter states that the Senate must ratify a treaty by 2/3 vote, but as the Senate's own webpage makes clear, the Senate does not ratify treaties. Instead, the Senate takes up a resolution of ratification by which the Senate formally gives its advice and consent, empowering the president to proceed with ratification. Or, and put another way, it is the president who negotiates and ultimately ratifies treaties for the United States, but only if the Senate is in the intervening period, gives its advice and consent.
See your rejection of the Global Treaty on Disabilities, which you just did like last year.
Indeed.
Morons.
And so the point here being that the president can certainly get involved in this executive agreement, and theoretically, a president in 2 years could quash the agreement. But a president could also quash a Senate-approved agreement in the same fashion. President has that power. And the question is whether or not a president 2 years down the road, when an agreement with Iran is going well, whether a president would deign to do that. That's a political question. But this is pretty crazy stuff.
The other interesting things to note about that are that not only is that true, but even the mechanics of lifting sanctions on Iran can mostly just be done by the executive branch, because you can just waive provisions, you can not extend, and a lot of the added and toughened sanctions, which would need to be removed for the first steps of the agreement, were done unilaterally by President Obama when he first came into office. So a lot of this, all of this aspects, even the more detailed mechanics of our sanctions on Iran, are at the discretion of the president. And obviously, they're just trying to make it so the agreement doesn't happen. And yes, in a couple of years when an agreement's happening and it's good, it'll be totally bizarre for somebody to try to undermine it. I also
and I would add, the idea that a future Congress could modify the terms of agreement at any time, no. Because an agreement involves two parties. So all the Congress could say is, we're going to break the agreement. It's ridiculous. In which case, Iran would be exactly back to where they are now. So it's also, from a point of leverage, like, I'm not even clear who this is sent to other than, I guess, this is something that is basically just sent to those people who are on a WorldNet daily email list as a way, ultimately, of fundraising. And the only other thing that it does is it perhaps undermines our ability to enter into any foreign agreements, because at least half of our Republican Congress has just gone so far off the rails.
It'd be great if the Iranians wrote back and they were like, Senator Tom Cotton, we're very familiar with your recent questioning, your work on questioning military officers on closing down Guantanamo Bay. So we're already very familiar with your depth and sophistication of analysis.
What was it that he said? What is the recidivism rate at at Guantanamo?
Yes, what is the recidivism rate at Guantanamo?
We haven't put anybody new in there. I understand that. But what is the recidivism rate?
Don't try to get fancy with me. By using words accurately.
Indeed.
I went to Harvard.
Let me show you how you can just write a letter and not know what you're talking about.